Governor, first, happy Father's Day. Thanks for joining us today.
Same to you, Jake. Have a great day today.
So Trump on his social media site is attacking former Trump officials that you know who have criticized him over the indictment. He's saying his former chief of staff, retired Marine General John Kelly, has a very small brain. For some reason, he put brain in quotation marks. He also called Kelly a mummy who sat in his office and stared at the ceiling. Trump called his former Attorney General, Bill Barr, a gutless pig, lazy, and totally ineffective. What do you make of the comments?
Well, look, Jake, I stood on the stage in 2016 and heard Donald Trump say he would only hire the very, very best people and he would know how to manage them. But think about what happens here. Here's what he says about Rex Tillerson when he gets in. He says he's the embodiment of the American dream, former CEO of ExxonMobil. He said when he left, was what he said about him. He's dumb as a rock and lazy as hell. About General Mattis, four-star General Mad Dog Mattis, he said he was our very best general and that he was the closest thing we had to Patton. When he left, he said he was the most overrated general in American history. You mentioned Bill Barr and John Kelly already. How about Mick Mulvaney, who was his director of the Office of Management and Budget and his chief of staff? He said he was outstanding and brilliant. And when Mick Mulvaney left, he said he was a born loser. Lastly, how about General Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff? He said he was a great American and a great patriot when he joined the administration. When General Milley disagreed with him and he left, he called him pathetic and a blanking loser. Now, look, either Donald Trump, if you believe what he said when they left, that means he didn't pick the very best people and doesn't know how to pick personnel. If you believe what he said at the beginning, the great stuff, then this guy is the worst manager in the history of the American presidency. Either way, Republicans should listen to what he says. He's a petulant child when someone disagrees with him. And whether it's Bill Barr or John Kelly or General Mattis, whether it is Mick Mulvaney or whether it's, General Milley, if you disagree with Donald Trump, the petulant child comes out and he calls you names like the ones you just mentioned and the ones I mentioned.
So the RNC just said the candidates have to pledge to support the nominee in order to participate in the debates. Former Governor Asa Hutchinson, he tried to get a carve-out so the candidates would not have to be required to support a nominee if that nominee is a convicted felon. The RNC said, no, you have to stand by the nominee even if he or she is convicted of a felony. So if Donald Trump is the nominee, will you pledge to support him and vote for him even if he's a convicted felon?
Jake, I'm going to go back to 2016 again and say I'm going to take the pledge just as seriously as Donald Trump took it in 2016. As you'll remember, Reince Priebus had to go up to Trump Tower to get him to sign it, to ask him to do so. He did, and then we went to a subsequent debate, and we were all asked if we would reaffirm our support of whoever the nominee was going to be by raising our hand. There were 10 of us on the stage. 9 of us raised our hands. The one who didn't was Donald Trump. And so I'll take the pledge in 2024 just as seriously as Donald Trump took the pledge in 2016.
What do you make of the fact that the RNC is not allowing a carve-out even if the candidate and the nominee has been convicted of a felony?
Look, I think the pledge is just a useless idea, Jake. And by the way, in all my life, we never had to have Republican primary candidates take a pledge. We were Republicans. And the idea is you'd support the Republican whether you won or whether you lost. And you didn't have to ask somebody to sign something. It's only in the era of Donald Trump that you need somebody to sign something on a pledge. So I think it's a bad idea. I've expressed that to Ronna Romney McDaniel personally, directly. So this is not the first time she's hearing it. But look, I will do what I need to do to be up on that stage to try to save my party and save my country from going down the road of being led by 3-time loser Donald Trump. Loser in 2018 by losing the House, loser in 2020 by losing the White House and the United States Senate, and the worst midterm performance we've seen in a long, long time, led by Donald Trump-selected candidates with Donald Trump as the main issue in many of those races. Loser, loser, loser.
Let's get to some issues. You said at the CNN town hall with Anderson Cooper that the federal government, quote, should not be involved in legislating around the issue of abortion, and that you wanted to leave it to individual states to sort out themselves. So just to be clear, if a Republican-led Congress passed any federal laws putting new national restrictions on abortion, as president, you would not sign it?
Jake, no Congress is going to pass any type of legislation like that until we have a consensus in the country. Now, look, this is a very, very difficult, contentious issue. I'm pro-life. I ran as a pro-life candidate and governed as a pro-life governor, with exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother, as the governor of New Jersey for 8 years in a very blue state. People know where I stand on this issue. But we have argued as conservatives for 50 years that this should not be a federal issue, that Roe was wrong, and that should be an issue decided state by state. We now have that opportunity to let states make that decision state by state. Let's see what the states do here and see if they form a national consensus, because there's no way you're going to get 60 votes in the Senate for anything unless you have formed a national consensus. So I want the states to go about doing their work. Many have been arguing for 50 years that they should have that chance. I've been one of those people arguing that for 50 years. And as a pro-life candidate, I want the states to weigh in here and try to help us develop a national consensus on this issue that a majority of the American people can and will support.
Speaking of states handling an issue, Republican governors across the country have been banning hormone therapy and puberty blockers for transgender people under 18 years old, though they're banning those procedures only as trans health procedures. They can still do them for other purposes, puberty blockers, et cetera. As governor of New Jersey, you signed into law some legal protections for trans people, including students. What do you make of your fellow Republican governors and candidates going in the opposite direction?
Jake, what I believe we should be focused on most importantly in these issues is making sure there is parental involvement at every step along the way. I don't think that the government should ever be stepping into the place of the parents in helping to move their children through a process where those children are confused or concerned about their gender. And I just would say that parents are the people who are best positioned to make these judgments. And so what I'd like to make sure each state does is require that parents be involved in these decisions. You know, we're talking about students. I assume you mean people under the age of 18, Jake. And the fact is that folks who are under the age of 18 should have parental support and guidance and love as they make all of the key decisions of their life. And this should not be one that's excluded by the government in any way.
You said that you would consider raising the retirement age for Social Security or cutting benefits for wealthier Americans in order to save the program, which faces a real risk of insolvency in the near future. Democrats say that what they want to do in some cases is tax more than just the first $160,000 of income. They want to, if you make more than $160,000, they want to include Social Security taxes for that additional income. Is that something you might consider, what Democrats want to do, if it were part of a bipartisan plan to save Social Security?
Jake, I dealt with this in New Jersey over all my 8 years. The Democrats' answer every time to a fiscal problem is raising taxes. I would not raise taxes on the American people over $160,000. And the reason is this. In my state of New Jersey, a couple making $160,000 is a police officer and a teacher. Do I really think they should be paying higher taxes here? I don't. Look, I think if we give people plenty of time to plan, and I'm talking about raising retirement age for people currently in their 30s and 40s, people who are in their 50s and 60s, they have already passed the time when they could do planning for their retirement, and Social Security has to remain where it is for them. But in people in their 30s and 40s, we could save a significant amount of money for the program. And let me remind everybody that if we don't make any changes at all, by 2034, what we're going to be dealing with in 10 years is a 24% cut in everyone's benefit. So we need to come up with a bipartisan solution, but taxes would not be a part of that bipartisan solution for me, Jake, because I think these Democrats in Washington have placed enough taxes on the people of this country, and they don't need more.
Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey, thanks so much for joining us today. Appreciate it.